the leader becomes the social agreements, the documents written up that are quite detailed. I mean, I know maybe if you're idealistic, you think just get good people together and they'll treat each other well. And it's like, well, no, they won't. We're ultimately selfish, and we will fuck shit up constantly. And we have to agree about, how do we raise children and how do we do every little thing we can figure out. So membership has to be slow entry, always having the ability to leave and having the resources to leave. That's a requirement. Everybody has to have the ability to leave and either join another community or leave and start their life over in the default world, which is very expensive, actually. The default world is set up to enslave you, and so it's going to be, you need a lot of resources, and that means, fiat currency and stuff. But if you don't have the ability to leave, even a two-person relationship, then you're going to have a power dynamic that opens you up to abuse. It seems basic to me. Legal and regulatory considerations. Yes, well, living in a place with less of those is a good idea. I think ultimately we want to figure out what is our own law about how we do things, and then how do we not do things that conflict with the local law and local culture. Especially if you're bringing a bunch of people together and you're outsiders within your larger community, you need to not be doing things that violate local customs, at least in any way that they're aware of. And you need to be following the law enough so that if you were ever investigated, you're not doing anything illegal enough for anyone to care about. And there are definitely places in the world with more or less laws. Like I wouldn't want to live in most places in the industrial world because they control everything. You can't do rain capture, you can't have composting toilets, you can't raise meat and sell it. Like you can read books by Joel Saltine. One of them I have is Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. And he's trying to be a small meat producer. He has other books, I think, as well. He's a speaker. He's a well-known guy. I don't know if that's his name. Joel Saltine. It sounds like a cracker. He is a cracker. He's a white guy. Anyway, he's a really cool guy. He's religious, but he doesn't seem obnoxious about it, as far as I can tell. He just wants the freedom to be able to raise meat and then economically transact with it. And that's very illegal in a bunch of places because a bunch of places want to only support big meat producers that produce unhealthy meat, raised with cruelty and contamination that contaminate the earth, when distributed small meat systems make so much more sense. Rabbits and chickens, that's your solution. So we don't want to fight the state directly. We want to create an alternative to it. And that means we have our own laws. We have a fairly conservative culture in some ways, certainly when we very carefully interact with the outside world. So that's one of the reasons I prefer an isolated community. There's other reasons too, like diseases and stuff. But yeah, that's important. Financial stability? Absolutely. We can still interact in terms of business with the outside world because we're still going to want stuff. Even the Amish still interact economically with the outside world, with the English, as they call them. They will hire trucks because they don't want to own their own gasoline vehicles or have driver's licenses, but they'll hire someone else to do it. And maybe they actually, because each Amish community makes its own decisions about what technology they want to use or not, which I find really great. It's a fairly distributed decision-making process, as far as I can tell, even though each community is very controlling in how they do it. But like I saw some video where somebody hired some Amish people to do some bulldozer work for them, which means there's some group of Amish people out there who have a bulldozer. Well, that's a pretty big decision. But it kind of makes sense. Because, I have enough land, and I'd like to actually get more and have other communities developed near me where we could own a bulldozer and rent it out to each other. And because we do need to shape the land. And I know some people say, my God, bulldozers are so bad. It's gasoline, and you're ripping the earth up and stuff. And it's like, no, we're sculpting the earth. It recovers. We're going to help it recover. We have nurseries. We can replant it. We can fill it with mycelium. But we can sculpt the land in a way that's useful for us as humans and then help it recover and get back to being biologically rich pretty quickly. Or in the case of a road, we don't want it to be biologically rich. We want to have it be stable. So finances is a tricky thing. But I know that we can't be a poor community. If you're poor, I don't want one living off government assistance. There have been communities where everybody's on the dole with something. they're on welfare systems, and it's like, I don't want to steal money from taxpayers that are working so that we can make our little poor bubble that's weak, and we don't have enough resources to fix problems when they occur, and they will. So no, we're going to be wealthy as a community because we're going to be living responsibly with responsible people who bring in resources, who are causing more resources to be brought in. I know that sounds like, oh, well, you're not really escaping from the default world then. That is correct. We are not prepared to do so. We can still use those resources to build into the land systems that allow us to live healthy and cheaper and more sustainably and more protected against societal disruptions or problems. So we don't want to trust the money, but we want to use it. And if you want to escape from money entirely, go do that somewhere else. Go be homeless somewhere, and you still won't be escaped. So, personal boundaries and privacy. I think I have a video about that recently I made where I don't want to live in a community where everybody's in my face all the time. I want to be able to go and have private time. And I think that the land can be used, the zoning of it can be used so that we have dense buildings, correctly designed, but then lots of ways to be alone, and a culture which respects people's privacy. You can be an introvert within a community and be okay. Fantastic. Sustainability and environmental impact. Well, I cover that a lot. Obviously, we want a very much net positive impact on the soil, on the land, on all the plants and animals, whether they're wildlife or they're domesticated, whatever the heck it is. So that's all AI came up with for that. I could use AI and dig deeper into those issues. If you have general thoughts about what I should cover, you let me know. What fears do you have about intentional community? And I have many. As I'm attempting to set one up, maybe I might just give up. Like, most people are so programmed in ways that are so incompatible with actually living in win-win situations with other people. Most people are such slaves, all they can really do is damage each other. It's very depressing. I'm sure you've dealt with that in whatever situation you're in socially, with family, with friends, with the government, with business, living in a city, having only unhealthy food available, having unhealthy culture surrounding you. You've dealt with it. So I'd like to hear what problems you see in society and how you imagine those could be solved if we made social agreements to break away from society as it is and recreate something that's better.